Brandon Benefield, Gerard Bonner, and Diana Michelle.
What's going on, everybody? It's that time of the week. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for the SHW podcast. This is Our Wrestling. I'm B-Double Brandon Benefield alongside the great GB Gerard Bonner and the beautiful Diana Michelle. Before we get going, guys, how's everybody's week? How's everybody doing? What's up, y'all?
Man, this week can't get by fast enough. I'm ready to get it done. Ready to get it done over to the anniversary show. And we got things going on. Y'all. I'm excited.
We do. It's been a good week. It's been a lot of stuff going on this week, but it's been good, and it's always the highlight of my week to get to hang with V3. It's always a wonderful thing.
Likewise.
Thing. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yes.
Well, speaking of things going on this week, I believe, was it Monday or Tuesday? It was earlier this week, the release of the teaser trailer for an upcoming movie called The Unbreakable Bunch, starring our good friend Ray Lloyd. You may remember him as WCW's Glacier,
Yes.
as well as Ernest the Cat Miller's in it, Haku, Ming, King Tonga, whatever you want to call him, he's in it. The living legend Larry Zbyszko's in it, DDP's in it, all kinds of great characters from over the years, some wrestlers from over the years. GB and I had the privilege of being on set and recording some audio for the film and being in some background stuff. So I don't know if any of it will make the final cut or not, but I'm excited to see this movie nonetheless. And so I don't know if you guys got a chance to see that teaser trailer. If not, go online and check it out. Facebook is The Unbreakable Bunch, and at The Unbreakable Bunch Movie, I believe, on Instagram. And my favorite part in the whole teaser is if Ming or Haku was not the most dangerous man in professional wrestling or in the world already, in this clip, he's got two guns and he's going, and he's shooting them, and he's got this crazed look in his eyes. And I'm like, oh man, as if he wasn't dangerous enough already. Now you give him weapons. So anyways, can't wait for that.
He's got a gun. Sheesh.
So that'll be fun. Be on the lookout for that. It's coming soon. I don't know an exact date. I heard sometime in October. We'll keep you posted on that. But speaking of things coming up in October, as Diana alluded to, we have a huge anniversary show coming up. Of course, we're talking about Still Here 5. I cannot believe we are almost 5 years old. And not only is SHW almost 5 years old, this will also mark yours truly's 5-year anniversary in the wrestling business, because prior to that first show, never called commentary, never stepped foot on the inside of the business. Been to plenty of wrestling shows. I've done my research throughout my life, but never worked in the business until the first show of SHW. So anyways, I thought it'd be fun. And GB, we talked about this off air. You mentioned, why don't we look back at the past 4 Still Heres and kind of reminisce, talk about some of our favorite moments, some standout moments from over the years, and kind of get us all hyped up and ready, because next week on this very show, we will be previewing the stacked card for Still Here 5. And believe me, it is stacked. So
it is.
But yeah, so how do we want to do this? You want to kind of go back and just person by person, or how do you want to do this? Talk about some of the
Man, just throw some stuff out there, I guess, because I cannot remember. It's been so many. How many shows have we done together?
Well, start with December of 19, which was SHW 15.
Right. So that means this will be our 40th show.
40th show.
This will be our 40th show. Wow.
That's wild.
Wow. That is wild.
That's wild.
That is wild.
I can't remember all these matches.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing off the top of my head from the very first Still Here, which was October of 19, was the very first time I met my my future broadcast partner, Gerard Bonner.
That is correct. That is
very
correct.
First time we met. In fact, Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, so I was going to say, it was during the, let's see, there was a War Games or War Chamber match at that first Still Here, and they had an intermission so they could set up the cage around the double ring. And during that intermission, you were there with your buddy Courtney.
Yeah.
And you came over and talked to me and Adam at the commentary table, and that was our first introduction.
It certainly was. It's so funny. That was actually my second show that I've been to for SHW. The first one was the September show. And the September show was so incredible that I literally called Courtney. I was like, dude, you got to get here. They're doing War Games. Okay. And so Courtney came from San Antonio just for this, and we hung out
What?
that weekend. Yeah.
You thought you had a
Yeah.
long drive, Diana.
What?
He came from San Antonio, and what was super funny was I believe it was that night where people thought we were in the business. They thought we were wrestlers.
Huck
And
thought you
so
guys, Huck thought you guys were wrestlers.
Huck
Y'all were
thought
giving him the business, and he thought
we
you guys were
were
wrestlers. Yeah.
we were. Gary thought we were wrestlers, and so Gary literally approached us thinking we were wrestlers, kind of staged in the audience, and we were like, no, but that was a game-changing night for me on a lot of levels. And so we ended up we recorded an episode of our podcast on the way there in the car to just kind of chronicle this whole road to this SHW thing that we were doing. And then we recorded our reactions afterwards, and we released all of that. And that became a pretty pivotal moment to getting my foot ultimately in the door for all things SHW. So Still Here 1 holds a very, very special place in my heart.
Well, so
sure.
because of you guys recording that podcast, that when you introduced yourselves to us, you told us about, hey, check out our podcast, The Faction. We're actually recording tonight, blah, 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 blah. And so I remember checking it out the next day or whatever and be like, wow, these guys are good. This is great. Wow. And so when the time came for there to be somebody to fill in as my broadcast partner, I remember thinking like, I listened to the podcast, I talked to you at the next show and telling Gary and Dylan, like, this guy's legit. This guy's good. Let's try it out. And boom, next thing you know, things are like it is. Here we are.
Crazy. Crazy.
40 shows later, right?
40 shows later.
40 shows later.
But I actually remember the show, which is funny. And there were...
It's not funny. It's expected.
No. Well, there are three things specifically that I remembered from this show. One thing, it's funny. One thing that I remembered is we kept screaming about why was all of the wrestling only in one ring? Because there were two rings for the War Games, and we were literally chanting like, use the other ring. So there was that. This was also...
We won't go into detail, but if you were there, then
there was a
why.
reason, though. Yeah.
Right.
The second thing I remembered was Joe Black versus Huck. And in that particular match, I remembered Huck using a chain, and I think I could say this is hilarious though. But from the crowd, I was just like, listen, we march too much for us to be in chains like this. Like, stop this violence. Like, this is ridiculous. It was really hilarious. And that's probably why Huck wanted to beat both Courtney and I up. It was hilarious.
Wow.
And then the third thing that I remember, of course, was the actual main event, the War Games match, which was crazy. And when they finally did get into the second ring, poor Corey Hollis, God bless him, getting powerbombed through that ring. And just, I still think that War Games was so innovative because we're used to seeing team versus team for something, but this was three teams, but really all individualistic, fighting for the SHW championship. So yeah, Still Here for me.
So during that main event, at one point, and here's the thing, somehow it always happens in cage matches or Hell in a Cell or whatever, somehow or another, you put them in a cage thinking, all right, the cage can keep them contained. They always find their way outside of the cage somehow. Always. Whether it's somebody on the outside sneaking the key from the ref or whatever it is. In this case, our table was set up kind of near where you guys were sitting in the crowd. So we were at the edge. We were right by the stage at the edge of the end of the second cage or second ring. And I believe it might have been Judas on the stage, and Sunny Days speared him through our table. Dude. Ooh. Oh, I know you remember. Don't look like you don't remember because it's on audio. If you go back and watch it, folks, you can hear GB in the background going, "They went through your table." He's yelling at us. They went through your table. And I didn't, because I didn't know him that well at the time. Yeah. But going back after getting to know him, I'm like, hilarious. I think that's GB yelling at me. And then it's clear. Yeah, I'm like, that's GB. And,
that's hilarious.
Or that's what it is. You said they broke your table. Yeah. They broke your table. That's what it was. And I think it was Judas being speared through the table off the stage by Sunny Days, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, another funny instance, and I know I think I've told you guys about this maybe when we were talking to David recently, but I don't think it was on the air. I think it was off the show after the show or the show before the show, whatever. There was a mixed tag match. It was David and Danny, and it was supposed to be against Lindsay Snow and Shannon Moore, but Shannon couldn't come kind of last minute, so everybody got a surprise special guest partner, and it was the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer. And I don't know, you might remember better than I can, GB. I don't know that the match started as a no DQ match, but somehow or another it ended up where it became like a no holds barred or no DQ match or something like that. Now, you know what? Actually, I'm going to tell you guys this, and maybe this will make people realize that we really don't know what's going on. People always assume, "Hey, tell us the inside scoop. What's going on? What's the down low?" And I'm like, I don't know. But people always assume we know stuff. But perfect example, during that match, Tommy Dreamer walks over to the announce table, looks dead at me, and he says, "Where's the pallet?" And I'm like, I didn't quite hear. So I'm like, what? And it's not really on the mic, right? I'm like, huh? Because he's trying to keep it discreet, right? And he's like, "Where's the pallet?" And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, "Okay." And then he turned around and he walked back to the ring. So I guess there must have been a pallet full of weapons somewhere, maybe under the ring or under the stage.
Never know.
I don't know, but we never found out. But I'll never forget Tommy Dreamer looking at me and going, "Okay." Just turning and walking back to the ring. I'm like, was I supposed to know? Was I supposed to give him I don't know. Anyways, nobody told me nothing. But man, what a wild night that was. And that was just year one, celebrating year one there at Still Here 1. Still Here 2. Fast forward to 2020. And GB, we were just reminiscing about this before you jumped on with us. But 2020, this was our second show back from being gone from the pandemic. So we skipped a September show that year. We came back in August for the Rumblejack because it was like late August. Then we skipped September, and then we went right into the beginning of October for Still Here 2. And man, I tell you what, one of the best title matches we've seen. That's the year Joe Black won the championship from Corey Hollis, who at the time was the longest reigning SHW champion. And man, what a night that was. Oh, and speaking of Diana, I see who you got in the picture behind you. And no, I'm not talking about Tony Schiavone, although he's our boy, but talking about Ricky and Robert back there.
Yeah.
They showed up to fight Matt and Joey Lynch, which was insane.
Look.
Gather yourself.
Look here.
Okay.
Look. I announced them Hall of Famers right there. How many times did they win the tag team champions? Was it 9 times? I believe that's right. I can't even remember because I was so emotional. Do y'all remember how I was like kicking my feet and squealing as they was coming out, trying to hold my composure like a little teenage girl? But I'd do it again exactly the same way. Oh my God, it's still surreal. I mean, I know a lot of people get to work with Robert and Ricky and whatever, but look, that was my highlight right there. That, and of course, meeting him, but that was my highlight. So if you want my best Still Here moment, Ricky and Robert.
That was a good one.
Hands down.
It was a good one.
Hands down.
It was
I was just looking at that this week. Yes.
Were you really?
Yes.
So cool.
Yes. Because I have all my pictures. Look, there's all my pictures.
There it is. Yeah, as surreal as it was for you, I think I had a moment, and I may have even said it during commentary, where I was just like, wait, we're actually calling this right now. Like, and I hope people understand that as much as we love what we do, and we do, part of the reason we love it so much is because we're fans as well.
Yeah.
And so the idea that, I kind of put myself in a certain place where it's like, okay, we're calling the action and we're doing it no matter who's in the ring, and you just kind of get into a certain zone. But the idea that I was like, okay, I'm 10 feet away from the Rock and Roll Express, and I'm calling their match right now. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's amazing, but then also considering it was our second show coming back from the pandemic, the uncertainty of whether or not we would make it back. And so for these kinds of moments to happen, it was really, really special. So yeah, that was a big one. A big one.
Well, and so at that August show, which was the Rumble Jack, our first show back, that's when Joe Black won the Rumble Jack and
Mhm.
earned the shot at the SHW championship, which took place at Still Here too. And I mean, we don't have to tell you guys. You've watched us long enough and heard us long enough. You know how much Joe means to the company and how much we respect him and how big of fans we are of him. And to see him get that moment, coming off the Rumble Jack victory and then see him get that win at the anniversary show that was a special night, man. That was a good one.
It was
Sure.
special.
Yeah, when we talk about the difference a year makes, to think that the year before he was just here in SHW starting that war with Will Huckabee.
Yeah.
And then a year later, now he's fighting for the SHW championship. It's incredible. And to have been a part of that journey, to watch that, to get to call that, because Joe Black is such a massive figure from where I sit. He is one of those guys who is so well respected. Everything he does in the ring, everything he does out of the ring. I mean, he is that guy who, again, we all believe the world should know about, and we get the honor of calling his matches here. So to watch him hit that pinnacle at SHW Still Here too. Yeah, that was top tier.
And not to take anything away from his opponent in that match, because Corey Hollis was such a big part of SHW in those first couple of years. And main eventing that show, to fast forward a year later, we're talking about October of 2021, Still Here 3, Corey Hollis starting off the show against Gunnar Miller in a career versus career no holds barred match, which many people put that up there as one of the best matches of 2021. And I'd be hard pressed to argue that, because what an amazing match that was. And that's interesting too, because you look at somebody like Gunnar Miller, who a lot of people are like, he gets in there kind of like Goldberg back in the day. People say, oh, he comes in here, hits his big power move, spear, jackhammer, all done. That's all he has to do. He can just handle, take care of everybody in no time at all. But he got in there with Corey and they had a pretty lengthy match and add the no holds barred stipulation to it. And man, it was anybody's ball game. And so that was a huge moment, I thought, of Still Here 3, just that match alone. And then the fact that Corey lost and would sail off into retirement, or so we thought, at least for a couple of years, until
And don't forget to mention the special guest referee, Mike.
Mike
That's
Posey,
right. Yeah, Mike Posey showed up for that one. That's right. And but man, just that was, and that's on top of another stacked card. I mean, of course, all these are going to be huge stacked cards, but that was also the year, GB, if you'll recall, was that the Samoan Strat match.
Well, before we get there, because we're going there.
Okay.
That was also the night of the very first SHW pre-show match. Where we had the infantry.
That's right.
That was on Carly Bravo and the Captain Sean Dean.
Was it TSF?
TSF. That's right. They went against TSF. And so again, as we've talked about in times past, when it comes to SHW, you're going to see the stars of tomorrow today. Now, there's another company out there who says that, but I really believe that we get to see that very regularly as we're just going through this card here, the whole Still Here franchise, and we can point to a number of names who have been on this card that we now see in other places. And so the irony that we are talking about the infantry having the first pre-show match just a couple of years ago, and now they're off to Ring of Honor and AEW doing all the things, getting a shot at the 6-man tag titles last night. Like, it's those kinds of things that we get to say we had the honor of calling. And as fans, you have the honor of getting to go see these things live and in living color, which again, once we get to Still Here 5, you don't know which of those stars we'll be talking about next year in other companies, in national promotions, on our television screens and the like. So yeah, that was a really cool moment to have that pre-show match for SHW Still Here 3.
Well, and while go ahead.
Speaking of living color, I believe that show was also the birth of that rainbow splatter paint onesie jumpsuit that Logan Chase wore? You remember that?
How can we forget?
Woo!
Well, he had so many crazy outfits that I was like,
but
taking
the
me a second to
splatter
remember.
paint. Oh, the splatter paint. We got to dance to that one. So that was special.
That's quite hilarious.
funny.
Very special.
That's quite hilarious.
What GB, you talked about fans being able to get kind of up close and personal to some of the stars of tomorrow. Well, speaking of up close and personal, you know, I started to mention that Samoan strap match in GB. You talk about up close and personal. They literally ended up like in your lap at one point during that. And here's the thing, we had moved up to the stage because again, it was another War Games night. So they had the double ring with the big cage. And we thought, okay, you know what? Instead of being on the floor, because as you recall, it's Still Here 1 being on the floor, they went through our announce table. So, hey, how about we move to the stage? Because we'll be out of harm's way.
So you thought.
Or so we thought.
So we thought.
But
Well, I don't think
they
you
found
got
a way.
hurt. You didn't get hurt holding all that woman in your lap.
Well, you know, let me start by saying, and
Okay.
I want to say this with all due respect, that it was the single greatest women's match in SHW history.
I really thought you were going to say, let me say, and you were building up to go, she's a queen. I really thought you were going to hit us with that.
Oh, you disappointed.
That's so funny.
I was waiting.
Considered that, but I mean,
get him to sing it.
We should get that. But that strap match was really quite incredible. It was incredible for a few reasons. I mean, for one, this war that we saw leading up to this, you know, Danny Jordan has been challenged before, but she had never faced a challenge quite like Rekka Tahaka, the queen, indeed. And Rekka came in during that summer, you know, beat Danny so fast that we were just like, wait, what just happened? You know, shocked the whole world, went on a tirade during that summer. And so it culminated in this incredible Samoan strap match, which was, I mean, a doozy, very physical, brutal match. You know, they fought all over the place. There were all sorts of economics involved, you know, large signs, forks, hot dogs. It was all kinds of craziness. And, you know, you always have to be prepared because you just never know, you know, when you'll be needed to serve at the pleasure of the queen. And apparently my number was called. And, you know, the queen.
You did well.
Well, listen, the queen was in trouble. She was being forcibly moved, and there was danger that she could fall on the ground. And, you know, I understand, I'm told that there are women who don't allow their purses to sit on the ground because their purses are very valuable. We can't let valuable royalty hit the ground. We cannot let that happen. So I was privileged. I was chosen, you know, by the royal court to serve at the pleasure and the privilege of the queen. And much like you, Diane, at Still Here 2, would you do it again? Still Here 3, I would do it again. I served at the pleasure of the queen. And so I was just honored that she would find me worthy. You know, I did not know. I know there were others who wanted that role, who wanted that opportunity. But, you know, millions didn't make it, but I was one of the ones who did.
She's your what, GB?
Queen to be.
Yes.
There she is.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well, on you know, again, another stacked up card. You had the tag team titles on the line, technical excellence defending against Overkill members Ashton Starr and Zicky Dice.
Crazy.
Then, of course, the Southern Honor Championship defended in a War Chamber match. It was David Ali versus AC Mack versus Owen Knight versus Austin Towers versus Joe Black versus Judas. At the time, Judas. Yes.
Crazy.
Man, insane, wasn't
it? I mean, it was the night that David Ali would end his historic 302-day title reign. It was the birth of Owen Knight as our SHW champion. You know, that's been an interesting theme that we have seen. Still Here 2. Well, actually, as I think about it, Still Here 1, Still Here 2, Still Here 3. We'll get to Still Here 4, but at every Still Here, those first 3, the SHW championship changed hands, which I wonder if that is a bit of foreshadowing for what could happen in a couple of weeks in the main event of Still Here 5. We'll get to that at some point. But
Yeah,
this is an interesting.
Could David
team.
Ali get that Still Here victory back that
That's
he didn't
the
get
question.
at that point? We'll see.
That's
see.
the question.
But
yeah,
man,
what a great night. And this is the other thing that was interesting too. In that War Chamber match, there was one ring that had ropes, and the other ring did not. So the ring that didn't have ropes almost had kind of this MMA feel to it, which added a much different element for when people came into the cage. And again, with this one, matches or action happened on both rings. So it was wild. It was wild. What a wild night.
Was that the one where because it was like elimination style?
Yes.
And that's the time where Judas at the time was pinned, but it took like 4 or 5 guys to pin him.
Correct.
So if you happen to catch SHW 54, which it's on IWTV now, so go ahead and check it out, get all caught up before the anniversary show. You hear us reference the fact that David Ali is the first single man to be able to pin him in an SHW ring, because people were commenting to me after the fact saying, well, no, what about Still Here 3? Yeah, but see, it took 4 or 5 guys. I'm talking about one guy to be able to pin just him. And David was the first one to be able to do that at SHW 54. Can he make it happen again at the anniversary? We'll find out. But again, we'll talk about that later. But man, oh man, what a match that was. And then you fast forward one more year, October 2022, Still Here 4, another wild night. And it's crazy to me because all of this stuff, sometimes you look back and you're like, man, that seems like so long ago. And then sometimes you think, man, it seems like just yesterday. Well, this is one of those, it just seems like, because I remember Buff sitting down with us on commentary. They had the DDPY Invitational Cup match, which, gosh, how many guys were in that?
Was it a tag team?
Well, it ended up in a tag team. It ended up in, so it started.
Yeah, it ended up in a tag team, right?
Yeah, it was Adam Jacobs, Shoot Taylor, Nick Halen, Jordan Kingsley, Duncan Mitchell, Dylan Lesson, KJ Impala, Teriyaki, Parker Lee, Jameson Ryan, Najasism, Larry Lazard. Woo! So mess of folks. But they had 2 rings because we were going to have the War Games later in the night. And so they used it for the DDPY Invitational. Then Teddy Long shows up, holla, holla, holla. And he turned it into a tag team match with the Final 4 competitors. So you had Adam Jacobs and Jordan Kingsley taking on Nick Halen and Shoot Taylor. And then, of course, I believe it was Adam and Jordan become the co-winners of the first ever DDP. I almost said DDPY, or maybe I did say DDPY. It's just a DDP Cup Invitational.
Yes.
There was no yoga involved that I know
None.
of, the DDP yoga. Anyways.
It might have helped.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, that's true.
After the beating some of these guys took, it wouldn't hurt to get your DDPY in. But man, what a crazy time that was, GB. And if you recall, Buff was there to present the trophy. And because of that, he joined us on commentary, which was, again, one of those weird, surreal moments where we're in the middle of calling, and you look over and like, Buff Bagwell's calling commentary with us. This is wild.
And he decided to stay for more than one match, which was completely unexpected as well.
Which was totally fine, but he was only scheduled to call that DDP. I almost said DDPY match, not DDPY, DDP Cup Invitational match.
Are you excited about this week?
Maybe.
I mean, goodness.
Perhaps, maybe,
Anyways.
DDPY hangover. I get it.
Right.
Right.
I get it.
But yeah, just wild, man. And then getting to talk to him backstage, get a picture, and I mean, it's just. And in that same match, we had Buff here, and then to our left, out on stage, here comes Teddy Long. I mean, it was just crazy night.
Where are we right now?
Yeah.
What year is it?
Exactly.
Correct.
Any big standouts as we're talking, because that was the most recent one just last year. But what do you guys? Any big standout for
that particular match to me was the standout, and you said Adam and Jordan won the co-winners. What is that? How you say it? The co-winners of the trophy.
Yeah, it is now.
Then Nick Halen, he took it like a man, I guess.
He got laid out, didn't
he
Buff laid him out, right?
With a crutch.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. Which sparked some other stuff coming along after that, but still, that was beautiful. And
I seem to remember there being, because it was a DDP Cup, There was a lot of diamond cutters flying around throughout the match.
There was a
There
lot.
were.
There was a lot.
There were.
But, you know, both had the crutches. His knee was giving him issues, so he couldn't do a cutter. But it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. And then became more discussed for Dick Halen.
That
Quite
might have been the first
interesting.
time where he couldn't remember what our names were.
Yeah, well, that
First of many.
Yeah.
first.
Mhm. First of
He
many.
steered clear. But yeah.
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite moments in matches from that night was that 2 out of 3 falls match between Chip Day and Kyle Matthews. You know, here was the team again that at Still Here 3 was Technical Excellence, you know, one of our favorite tag teams. And so it was kind of heartbreaking to see that team break up. But then it gave us
The birth of the bad boy.
well, yeah,
Easy,
a moment that
easy.
see. So my Still Here 3 moment, her Still Here 4 moment. There it is. You know, so for me, what it did was it gave us a series of insanely amazing matches between Chip Day and Kyle Matthews. It started with this 2 out of 3 falls. We would later then get an Iron Man match between them. And then just a couple of months ago, a match now for the Jake the Snake Legacy Championship. You know, you think about some of the great rivalries that have happened in our business that have come as a result of two people who were a tag team or who have a close relationship. And I think a Chip Day, Kyle Matthews situation, if they decided to still wrestle 10 years from now, they could be across the room in a crowded room and they'd see each other and they'd put on a 30-minute classic. They are those kinds of guys. You know, I put their rivalry in the same space as a Steamboat Flair. Like, I don't think that's any exaggeration. When you start talking about two guys, you know, even a Sting and Flair, two guys who are just meant to work together, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, right? Like, you know, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, these guys who have really they just got the kind of chemistry that works, and you can watch them for however long they decide to be in front of us. And so we were really graced to get that 2 out of 3 falls match as part of Still Here 4, which was absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. And then another big standout match from that night. And GB, this is another one where they got a little up close and personal to you and I up on the stage. Again, up on the stage thinking we're out of harm's way. It was a last man standing match between Cyrus the Destroyer, who has an IWTV World Championship match coming up next in the next couple of weeks at Still Here 5, against, at the time, Judas. Now Judas, who will be defending the Southern Honor Championship in a couple of weeks at Still Here. So two big bulls in a last man standing match, nearly tearing down the action building, nearly giving us a heart attack at commentary, clearing off our table. Luckily, nobody ended up going through it, although we thought it was going to happen. And a casket even gets involved and thrown on top of Judas and preventing him from making the 10 count. And Cyrus was the winner of that match. But man, what an insane clash of titans that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What more is there to say?
Yeah, it was like the contrast between that and the dog collar match from Huck and Joe back in December of 19. Is that correct? December or January?
January
20.
Yeah.
My second show. So pretty much the same feel, danger, chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But to see Cyrus dump that casket over on top of a grown man onto the concrete floor, that still amazes me that he got up. And is champion now, but it still amazes me.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that was a crazy match, and it was so that whole casket moment was so memorable that at times I've almost referred to it as a casket match.
Right.
You know, it was just that crazy. So yeah, you know, Cyrus, Judas, last man standing match, you know, and this whole idea, and it's so interesting because it took so long for these two to finally get together. It was like stars passing in the night We
Right.
literally were waiting for 6 months for this match. And, one person couldn't make it and one person's schedule changed and one person got injured and,
Forever.
all kinds of things happened, but the stars properly aligned. And really, there probably was no better place for this than Still Here 4. And incredible, absolutely incredible match.
Yeah. And topping the night off, another War Games matchup. Team Dishonor versus Team SHW. I know it's brings back bad memories, but it was this time a year ago where Dishonor was just running rampant all throughout SHW. They had all the power at the time. It was Team Dishonor, Cruel, Joe Black, Carly Bravo, Sal Renaro, and Sunny Days versus this hodgepodge group for Team SHW of Gunnar Miller, Tank, David Ali, Murder One, and Owen Knight. What a crazy group that was, defending the honor of Southern Honor.
If I'm not mistaken, that Southern Honor team was not exactly. They were just kind of put together. They didn't even mesh.
Well, and
We
we
didn't know if we
discussed
could
that.
trust
Yeah,
Murder.
we discussed it leading up to the show because I remember GB even saying like, you got Dishonor, who's like a unit. They were a legit team taking on this kind of mishmash of a group that got thrown together. And well, we saw how it ended. So,
but then you have the promo from Murder that comes up and says, "Hey, I'll help you, Gary. We don't get along, but I'll help you." I mean, that was crazy. It was crazy. Just the whole. I mean, Gary comes out bloody. He gets light tubes and stuff busted over his back, and he's laid out at the end. I mean, let's not go that route again, guys. Come on. That was.
I mean, at the time it was unfortunate, but looking back, it was kind of awesome. And we got sprayed with the glass. I mean, it was wild.
With the glass.
It was a wild
everywhere.
night.
Yeah, it was a wild night, a very dark time in the history of our company. And, again, so interesting watching that match play out and still really not knowing what was going to happen, because it definitely seemed like neither of the teams were trying to give up. Neither of them were trying to get pinned. And so, again, somehow the trusting nature of a Gunnar Miller, where he just decided, okay, well, we'll quit so that you don't harm Gary, only then for Dishonor to do exactly what they planned to do in the first place. So
it's in their name.
It's Dishonor.
It totally is. And so a crazy night. Interesting fun fact. This is the first and at this point only presentation of Still Here to not feature an SHW championship match. So that again brings things to a very interesting point when we get to Still Here 5, which we will talk about in depth next week. But this War Games was crazy. Yeah. I mean, crazy. Good grief.
Yeah. It was a wild one. And of course, all of our Still Here shows have been the biggest shows of the year every year.
Yes.
And with this being our 5th anniversary, there's already 9 huge matches announced for October 6th. I dare say it's our biggest show ever, not just of the year, but of all 5 years. And it's going to be insane. You're going to want to be there. We mentioned DDP a lot earlier. DDP will be there in person doing a special meet and greet. And if you'll rewind all the way back, not to the first Still Here, but to the very first show, October of 2018, you can hear me lose my mind on the microphone as DDP surprised us all. And he made an appearance where he actually introduced the SHW championship belt for the very first time before the title match that night. And man, what a moment that was. So it'd be very cool to have him back 5 years later, back kind of like it all started, back at the very first show. So he'll be there. 9 big matches. I'm going to run through this card and just tell you what the matches are so you can get pumped up and get ready, make your plans. And then, like I said, next week we will do our preview show and we'll go in depth, as GB mentioned, into the whole card. But we're going to have Gunnar Miller and Todd Sexton one-on-one. And I have found out that the end game will be banned from ringside for that matchup. So I am not feeling too good there for Mr. Sexton. We'll see how that goes for him. Also, another member of the end game, Nick Halen, taking on Corey Hollis one-on-one. You've got Movie Mike taking on Ashton Starr. Ashton finally giving Movie Mike what he wanted, and which was his attention, I suppose. And it's going to be an interesting matchup there. If you have not seen the music video, I guess you could call it, it's been posted on social media. Movie Mike's message to Ashton Starr and Ashton's response. Very weird stuff, but interesting. Then you have Sunny Days and the Killbilly, Nathan Mowry. You see Diana's shirt, the Killbilly. And
go get your merch, deathmatchworldwide.com.
There you go. There you go. And I'm telling you, this one has gotten very, very personal. I don't know what these guys are going to do. We did find out it's going to be just a no rules match, and there's no telling what these guys will do to each other because of how personal it has become. You've got the Jake the Snake Legacy Championship. Part of me thinks Chip Day is a little bit crazy for putting this out there, but also I respect him because he's that confident that he can defend this against 5 other men, because this is going to be a 6-man challenge. It's going to be Chip Day defending against Kenway, Owen Knight, Kyle Matthews, Nagicism, and shoot, Taylor. That's going to be.
I want to call it a 6-pack challenge. Is that something? Is that football? That's football.
No.
Sure,
No.
We've had a 6-man
Six-pack?
scramble. We've had a 6-man scramble. I think maybe we've had a 6-pack challenge before.
Yeah.
Anyways, on the poster, it's 6-man challenge. We can call it whatever
6-man.
we want. I know what you mean.
No, I can't. I need to call it what it is.
Well, show night will get it right, but yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's funny.
The IWTV Independent Wrestling World Championship will be on the line as Cruel defends his title against Cyrus the Destroyer. Talk about chaos at SHW 54. I mean, there are like 2 crazy stories clashing here as Cruel's got all this outside stuff going on with his wife. I assume she's still his wife, at least for now. And Adam Priest.
Did I see the promo on IWTV?
Well, so now that's been posted to Wednesday, as a matter of fact. So if you didn't see it on SHW 54, check it out on social media. But there is a backstage, what happened backstage afterwards with Brooklyn and Matt Griffin and Adam Priest. Not Adam Pierce, who I'll get it right.
A different Adam.
Different guy.
AP.
Totally different guy. But that's going to be crazy. Is Cruel going to be focused on that, or is he going to have his focus on Cyrus? Because even if you have 100% attention on Cyrus, that's hard enough. But when you have all this other outside distraction, anyways, we'll get into that next week. Also on the line, NWA World Women's Championship, Kenzie Page defending against SHW's own Danny Jordan. That is going to be an instant classic, I have a feeling.
Special.
The SHW,
I love them 2 together either way. Remember we did our dream matches. I wanted them to tag.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And who knows what might come of it, but it's going to be good no matter what. SHW Tag Team Championship match, Triple Threat Tag Team Championship match. The Hierarchy defends against All Star Special and Exotic Puke. And then the main event, Southern Honor Championship defended against, to be Judas defending against David Ali, as we alluded to earlier. Can David get that Still Here victory back after he lost the title a couple of years ago at Still Here to Owen Knight? So we will see if he can beat Judas in this one. But that's 9 huge matches. Oh, it's going to be insane. Celebrating 5 years of SHW. Guys, we're just a couple of weeks away, and I can't wait. Oh.
Yeah, like I said, this week's going by too slow. I need to get on through. I feel alive on show week. I feel alive when it's time to have this. And this is huge.
Yeah. Biggest one yet.
I will say, and we're going to do our deep dive next week, but just you running through those matches, I mean, we literally have 2 world title matches on this card. 2 world title matches, the SHW Championship, the Jake the Snake Legacy title, the tag team title. This is really the biggest card we've ever had. And so, guys, do what you need to do to make your plans. October the 6th, there is nothing else happening other than Still Here 5.
That's
you don't want to be, listen, the last thing you want to do is find out from some fan video or from some picture that posts the next day of what happened. I mean, think about it. You could be present for 2 world title changes. You could be present for could Danny Jordan, who many have just been believing should be a women's champion, win one of the most important women's titles in the history of pro wrestling? The NWA whip, like, guys, if you love wrestling like you say you do, this is the space to be. I mean, could David Ali come back and avenge his loss from 2 years ago? Like, the questions, the answers, yeah. Just running through got me excited all over again. So.
You got time to take off the whole day from work and get up here to Canton. You got time. Go ahead and put it in.
Yeah,
go ahead and submit your time.
I almost said something. I don't want to create any problems, but like, I don't know if people want to tailgate. Like, is this the time to do that? But it's
absolutely.
October. It's college football season, so there's plenty of time. I mean, take the day off. Make it a full thing, create some pumpkin spice if you need to, bring me an early birthday gift, like, do all the things and make it happen. This is going to be a special night. I feel it in my bones. I can't wait.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. And I can't wait to see all of you guys next week, right back here on the podcast, as we have our big preview show.
Yep.
In fact, it'll be our biggest preview show ever because we're previewing the biggest SHW show ever, Still Here 5, October 6th at the Action Building, 261 Canton Road, Marietta Road, Canton, Georgia. I'm screwing it up. I almost got through the whole show.
5 years.
I know.
Good. It's all good.
I get it right every time. Anyways, just where it is. It's at the Action Building.
Yeah,
I'll get it right next week.
Just type in Action Building.
You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. Go ahead and make your plans now. As GB and Diana mentioned, just take the day off. Plan to get there early. It's going to be awesome. But we will be back here next week to preview that very show. And until then, this has been
SHW.
This is our wrestling.
Bam.